Aren't you skating?
Nah, I ain't skated since I was 15. That's when I started fighting. When I was 15.
Why do you want to fight?
Because I can't sing or dance.
Rocky, you believe that America is the land of opportunity?
Yeah.
Although Creed does. And he's going to prove it to the whole world by giving an unknown a shot at the title.
You had the talent to become a good fighter, and instead of that, you became a leg breaker, some cheap second-rate loan shark.
My father, he says to me, you weren't born much of a brain, so you better start using your body, right? So I become a fighter.
Well, my mother, she said the opposite thing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Hero Network. And this is Wheel of Movies, episode number 57. We are talking about the 1976 sports drama classic Rocky. Yes, coming off of, coincidentally, we spun it on the wheel right after we just did a Rocky recast last week on the Movie Hero Network as well. So it's all Rocky all the time, at least here. But also, around, there's a little Thanksgiving, a little Christmas, a little bit of both in this movie, Richie. So it's kind of a nice bridge movie too. It's kind of a, we're post Thanksgiving, pre-Christmas here, so and it's a cold movie as well. So we're talking about a little Rocky here today. So it seems only appropriate. But I am Austin Pez Howell, and of course, always with my co-host Richie Goodacre. How's it going, Richie?
Yeah, no, not too bad. Yeah, I was looking forward to talking about Rocky. I know it's on a few people's lists, so we were going to talk about it eventually. Pretty sure. Yeah, there's a few Rockies and a few Creed.
I'm sure there's some sequels and some Creed movies on there as well. So this may not be the only time we talk about this franchise. It might not be in order, but this might not be the only time we talk about this franchise. We can touch a little bit on the franchise at the end of this episode if you want, like kind of our overall thoughts on the franchise. We can definitely talk about that at the end of the episode.
Yeah, but no, it's always a good time, and So it's a cool story. It's a cool story. It's one of the best sports movies of all time, and also just a cool story how it got made, which is also, as you probably get into, being the making of this movie is getting made into like a movie of itself or a TV show. So
it's a movie, called I Am Rocky, and I believe it's going to come out next year to coincide with the 50th anniversary of the movie. So that it's actually going to work out very nicely. Yeah, we can touch on that as well, because I think they've wrapped filming on that one. It's coming, so I'd imagine by next year. So because there is a fascinating story of the making of this movie, plenty of stories around that. So I'll touch on a little bit of that. I won't go too in depth, but there's plenty of videos out there if you want to get kind of an in-depth story of Rocky, or listen to the commentaries, or Stallone's done plenty of interviews about that. But it is a fascinating story worthy of a movie, similar to kind of similar, maybe not as in-depth as we talk about The Offer, Richie, that show about The Godfather that they did, with Miles Teller and Dan Fogler. There's a lot of movies like that have just fascinating making of stories, of crazy things that had to be overcome, or low budgets, or just things that happen, whatever, or stars and directors. Rocky is certainly one of those movies that has an interesting story behind it, and essentially the start of Stallone's career. Here.
Plucked out of almost kind of nowhere. So it's been it's a cool story, and it's always good to revisit Rocky, and I think it's like you mentioned, touched on it. So good time of year to revisit Rocky as well, because it's like it falls into that around. It's probably set right around like probably around this time, like whatever 40, 50 years ago, 40 or so years ago, 40, 50 years ago. So yeah,
Almost 50, yeah, almost 50 now. It's kind of hard to believe this movie's almost 50 years old, but it certainly is. Yeah, no, I mean, so we'll get into it a little bit. Rocky, directed by John G. Avildsen, who went on to, have a pretty lengthy career. He went on to do the other, underdog movie from near this time, The Karate Kid, obviously. So, a lot of people know that. He directed a couple of those films. He came back and only directed Rocky V out of this franchise.
that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, he did that one. Not a whole lot of like other big movies. He's been steadily working, but I don't think anything kind of as big or as famous as like Rocky and the Karate Kid. He passed away in 2017 at the age of 81. So, he had a lengthy career, but I think his most noteworthy stuff is obviously Rocky and the Karate Kid, kind of most noteworthy. But Stallone did, of course, write the script. He wrote a lot of the scripts for these movies, and then went on to direct, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So he directed quite a few movies in the franchise as well. One of the real stories about this movie, Richie, and it goes into the making of the movie. Budget of $1 million, a cold $1 million. So not a lot of money getting thrown around here. That's definitely a story of making a lot of guerrilla filmmaking, a lot of like, hey, we got like 2 takes to get this done, that sort of thing. I mean, we don't have a lot of leeway to work with. We got to do a lot of trickery. But when it goes on to a box office of $225 million worldwide for 1976, that is a lot of money, and that is enough to make you the #1 movie of 1976.
That's got to be like one of the biggest profits of all time.
Yeah, no, it might be up there. I don't know if it totally is. I think there's movies like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Passion of the Christ, things like that might have like bigger margins, overall. But it's certainly up there, as far as like budget to box office. Certainly an underdog story in itself of success, and also leading to 10 Oscar nominations for the movie. So that's also studio very happy about that, and it wins 3. So it was a tough year, Richie. If I rattled off a few of these, some of the competition, it was a stacked year. So Rocky had a battle to where no movies kind of ran away with anything. It was kind of split all around for some very big movies. So it wins for Best Picture, it wins for Best Director for John G. Avildsen, and it wins for editing. Out of all things. A really stacked year, because even in picture, it's up against All the President's Men, Bound for Glory, Network, and Taxi Driver. So just between All the President's Men, Network, and Taxi Driver, that's a rough, that's a pretty stacked category there. Stallone loses to Peter Finch in Network. I'm as mad as hell, and I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, I can't really. It's hard to.
It's hard to argue against that, right?
I obviously, as a Stallone guy, I would like him to win, and it'd be a cool story. But that's a great performance. So I can't be like, oh, he didn't deserve to win. No, he kind of did.
Well, and he's also up against Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. So you got a rough road ahead of you, unfortunately.
What I found funny is that I think it was right before he was about to fight Creed. Like I think Creed says something, and Rocky goes, "Is he talking to me? You talking to me?" I immediately thought of Taxi.
Yeah, and then Mickey goes, "Yeah, he's talking to you." I don't know. If he had any awareness of that, but it is kind of striking that it comes out the same year and there's a "you talking to me" thing. I mean, Talia Shire was up against like Faye Dunaway and Network, Sissy Spacek and Carrie, a couple of things there. So, I mean, just a lot of competition that year. So, All the President's Men won a couple of things, Network won a couple of things. So, it's kind of all over the place that year, but a tough year. So, and a good year for the Oscars. So, but I did walk away with a few of them. So the United Artists obviously very happy with the both the box office and the Oscar recognition. So good thing there. I'll touch a little bit on the behind the scenes, and we can touch on a few as we go along as well. But obviously, kind of the main thing was, just the making of the big thing was that Sylvester Stallone wrote the script and had an opportunity to get out of poverty very quickly, Richie, because he was in poverty. I mean, he's pawning his jewelry. He had to sell his dog at one point to keep the roof over his head that he bought back eventually. But all these things, like he's living on the edge of poverty. He has an opportunity to sell this script. United Artists was willing to buy the Rocky script as long as he wasn't in it, but give him like a hefty six figures. And obviously, Richie, if you're in poverty and somebody offers you six figures for something you did, that's pretty enticing. You know what I mean? It's hard to pass up, an instant life-changing amount of money,
Yeah. That'd be like, that's that'd be definitely hard. I don't know if I different people in a situation might be like, give me up my situation, but I guess it's because he wanted to be in it. I guess
he felt like it was also about him, so it was a very personal script, and he felt like he could play this character kind of better than anybody. Obviously, around that time, and you'll recognize it, they wanted a marketable star. You want somebody on that poster, right? So who do they go to? As we talked to Robert Redford, James Caan, all the usual suspects that you would talk about around this time, right? All the handsome kind of leading men, but I mean, that's what makes the movie is Stallone brings his real life struggles, into this film, and a lot of the things that are in the movie, and I'm sure we'll touch on it in that I Am Rocky document, is parallel to his life. That he's living in a crummy apartment, he's making ends meet. He feels like he's not going to make it as an actor. Much like Rocky, never made it as a boxer. It's just a lot of parallels, and I think he felt like this was just, if I don't get to make this movie, I'll just regret it for the rest of my life. And that's kind of what it was, essentially.
Yeah. Didn't the Italian Stallion name come up around because he made like a softcore porn or something?
There was something similar to that. Yeah, he didn't do porn per se, but he was like in a movie that was doing it or something like that. Yeah, some kind of erotic movie, called like the Italian Stallion, or somebody in it was called Italian, something like that. Yeah.
But when he was asked about it, like in the movie on TV, he had to be very coy. He's like, oh well, I don't know what he kind of said, but
it's like you do what you got to do to make money sometimes, or something like that. Yeah. Well, and the Balboa thing comes from there's a park in Philly called Balboa Park, so he just kind of took that name off there. So it's an amalgamation of different things, because I watched a few like YouTube documentaries and read some big behind the scenes articles, things like that. The other kind of big thing to come out of this movie. It wasn't the only movie in 1976 to use Steadicam, but it was certainly one of the first few movies to use Steadicam. Bound for Glory, one of the other movies, came out used Steadicam. So did Marathon Man. But this is certainly one of the premier movies that started the Steadicam phenomenon. And the guy who invented the Steadicam worked on the movie and shot the iconic, running up the stairs sequences. But not just that, a lot of just the sequences of him walking around or running around Philadelphia were filmed with the Steadicam rig, which was brand new. The thing used to kind of stabilize a camera so you can move around with it very quickly without a dolly. You can just strap it around you. It's like a harness, waist and shoulder harness, so you can hold the camera. Fun little fact I told my girl is that the rigs in Aliens, if you remember Vasquez and Drake, they have the big guns they hold out in front of them right there, and they're strapped around their waist as well. Those are Steadicam rigs. They just added a prototype gun to it to make it look cool. So those are just Steadicam rigs. So kind of a cool thing there. But one of the first movies to really kind of primarily use it for a lot of the shots. So, that's another big thing that came out of it. So, I could go on and on. There's a ton of behind the scenes stories. I won't go on about all of them because there's plenty of info out there on it, and we'll get that movie and we'll talk about that kind of coming up. 1976, we're going kind of far back to where it's not like a lot of multiplexes, Richie, but if you'd like to know some of the top grossing movies of 76, I'd be happy to enlighten you. So Rocky, the #1 movie, big hit. of 1976. So everybody goes to see it and loves it. A Star is Born, the 76 version with
Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson.
Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson movie. Yeah, big hit around that time as well. The 1976 King Kong, which I like that movie quite a bit. I know not everybody does, but I enjoy it. Jeff Bridges, yep, and Jessica Lange. So yeah, it's a good one. Charles Grodin in there as well. But yeah, that's an ASAC question if I ever heard one. Charles Grodin, the oil executive in that movie. So that's definitely an ASAC question. Keep that in the back of your mind, Richie. I would ask that 100%. You got Silver Streak, the Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder comedy.
Oh yeah.
Around that time.
I think it's a lesser known one out of the three.
Yeah, I have it on Blu-ray, and then I have a DVD set with their other movies with like See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and Stir Crazy, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, those guys were starting to make movies around. I think Silver Streak was the first one they made together. Yeah, because Gene Wilder's coming off of like Blazing Saddles and Willy Wonka and Young Frankenstein, so he's a pretty big star around this time. Doing well. All the President's Men, very hit as well. Got The Omen from 1976, top grossing horror movies. That's kind of cool to see a horror movie in the top 10 there. Got The Enforcer, the Dirty Harry sequel, Midway, The Bad News Bears. You got some other stuff. Silent Movie, the Mel Brooks movie, Pink Panther Strikes Again, Murder by Death, the Malcolm Lay special that he's always propping up, the parody film, Marathon Man.
I don't mind that film. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, really, the top 20 or top 19 or 20 are all movies we're still kind of talking about. Marathon Man, Taxi Driver, Outlaw Josie Wales, Carrie, Logan's Run, Network. So a lot of pretty well known movies.
I think a lot of heavy hitters in 1976.
Yeah, so it seems like a pretty good year for movies. So yeah, let's we'll get into Rocky. We'll start with kind of our history with the movies, and then I may do something similar to what we did to Mary Poppins. We'll talk about it in a minute, Richie. But what's your history with Rocky? Do you remember the first time you saw it, or kind of how you came to the franchise in general?
Yeah, I came to it a bit late, actually. I think I started watching them when like Rocky Balboa was going to come out, so I'm like, I really need to get into it to watching like Rocky. And I think it was at like a dad's friend's place, and he had a couple of Rockies, never all of them. But so I was like, I'll just put this on, and yeah, I've been watched it like it's my fifth viewing, I think. And so I was like, why did that take me that long? So but it has become something I definitely go back to. But yeah, it took quite a while, but I knew it was something I'd get to eventually, just because of how sort of a almost like a pop culture phenomenon it is, and like how what kind of how big of a movie it is, and it birthed like a whole statue up there in Philadelphia, up those near those steps. So I kind of we'd seen, like, even though obviously not, it's going to be not going to be in the movie Rocky, but like seeing the steps without the statue. It's So that's sort of my my history with it with Rocky. I probably I go back to this one the most, but like I think maybe Rocky 4 is probably one I have the most fun with, I guess. But Rocky, this is probably the best movie out of the franchise.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I the same thing. It's like Rocky Balboa was the first one I saw in theaters, but I was very familiar with these movies as a kid, because definitely throughout the 90s they played these movies on cable all the time, especially on TNT. Where Dynamite airs right now over here. They had the rights to it, so yeah, they ran Rocky movies a lot, especially on the weekends. I would see little mini Rocky marathons where they would show not so much the first movie. Oddly enough, the first movie didn't get a lot of play on cable. It was really like they would do mini marathons of like 2, 3, and 4 back to back. And maybe it's because those movies are a little bit shorter and they're kind of a little punchier, not to make a pun, but like they're a little more like fast paced, kind of like Bing Bang Boom, kind of stuff. A little like flashier, than the first movie. So they were big hits on cable. So because of that, I saw the sequels constantly, and they're like burned into my brain. That's why it's like one of my favorite franchises, because I know these movies back and forth. I've done like Rocky trivia matches with like Henry and stuff like that, debates and whatnot. So I know this franchise very, very well. And yeah, the first one, yeah, it's like I always want to, when I go back to the first one, though, like really sit down and watch it and just kind of really analyze, because it does feel more like a straight drama, like a 70s drama than the other ones. And the other ones feel like, they're definitely more 80s, 100%. Even Rocky 2, which is 1979, but it's kind of the birth of the 80s in that movie. When you watch it, you're kicking it off. In 82, Rocky 3 is full 80s, full on 80s with everything.
Yeah. With thunder lips and that one. Just very, very, very. It leans right into the cheese.
Yeah, 100%. But it still has its moments. It still got some good dramatic stuff in there. But yeah, this franchise, has definitely been with me for a very long time. And yeah, if I was to make like a top 10, my top 10 like favorite franchises, like this would be pretty high up there, because it is. I think it's also, Richie, just one of the more consistent franchises out there, as far as like consistent with the drama, with the characters. You get the boxing action, you want things like that. I mean, it's just, you kind of know what you're getting most of the time with like a Rocky franchise movie for the most part.
Even like, because I was initially I was a bit worried when it was when like Creed came out. So I mean, I know it's such like involvement, but I'm like, oh man, it's been a while and he doesn't have like as much involvement. I'm like, do we need? Is it just we are at the stage where we're milking the franchise and it's just gonna feel like not. Like not as special or whatever, or is it just going to feel like a cash grab, and it's not going to feel, there's not going to feel that special Rocky movie. But no, I think Michael B. Jordan and co have done a really good job at kind of, at making it, been a very important sort of franchise in the Rocky, in that sort of Rocky universe. So yeah, I think they've been a great additions to that overall lore. So
well, in that way where it's like an epilogue, but in a cool way of like a continuation of the series, but with a nice injection of a new character, but putting Rocky in the supporting role, you know what I mean, and having him be like the almost like the Mickey of the series. It works, in that way.
Yeah, and I think I read that, although I have mixed feelings about when they franchises like kind of move over to platforms and stuff, But I know that I think they're doing Michael B. Jordan said that they're doing a TV series about his daughter, the deaf daughter. So that'd be cool. I just we talked about me being sort of more movie centric, or we're movie centric guys. I'd like that. I'd just like it as a movie. So
yeah, I'm the same way with like, how the next Friday the 13th thing we might get is like a TV show on Peacock. I'm just like, I'm not as interested because I just like the movies, that sort of thing. And it's even this, like, I haven't even watched, I barely got into the Alien Earth series because I like the Alien movies, but, watching a TV show felt weird. It's like they got this, the Welcome to Derry TV show on right now, which I haven't watched because, again, I like movies, not so much TV shows. Like, I'm not against TV shows, but I'm just, I think you're like me. Like, I'm a movie guy. I watch movies.
I don't know. I guess maybe it just feels like, even if like I really get into the internet, obviously there's great TV shows out there that I can get engrossed in, but there's just like the idea that like maybe TV shows feel like more like appointment viewing or like an assignment, because you'd be like, okay, well, I've watched 2 episodes, now I gotta watch 3. I gotta watch the last 3. Whereas like you watch a movie, you're in the theater or what have you, or watch Netflix, you watch 2, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, 3 hours of the movie, and then you're done.
You're done. Yeah, you gotten everything. You get out of it, get the full story, and you're good to go. and you can go back and watch it again if you want to or whatever. But yeah, the story's there. It's over. It's done. Yeah. It just feels like an investment. Yeah, it feels like, just to me, like homework. It's like, oh man, I got to invest like 8 hours in this thing, 10 hours, whatever it is. I just know it's going to be a commitment when I'm like, my brain goes, I could watch 5 movies in that same amount of time. Get 5 new stories, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just the way my thing. I'm like, I could have gone to the theater and watched 4 movies in that same amount of time,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah. It's just it's the way my brain works too. Or after a while, like just your brain just tends to drift off. You're like, okay, cool, yeah, no, my ADD's kicking in. I need to turn this off, so I'm not paying attention.
Yeah, I have that same problem. So usually, if I watch a TV show, I do like an episode here, an episode there. Yeah, I don't like sit down and try to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Back to back. So, but yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like we could also do a similar approach we did for Mary Poppins with this movie, Richie, because it's more of a character study, anyways, for the most part. This movie is rather than like a plot heavy movie, because the plot again is fairly simple. There's a down and out boxer who never made it. He gets an opportunity, because of happenstance to get a shot at the world heavyweight title. He's the ultimate underdog, etc. That's pretty much it. You know what I mean? And they have the fight. Like there's not a lot of like beat for beat plot things you have to like go through. So I almost feel like it actually benefits the movie if we kind of go character by character, almost like we did for Recast. You know what I mean? If you're okay with that, because I think we can hit the same plot points and whatnot. Kind of like Mary Poppins. And don't get me wrong, we'll go back to the other format for a Christmas movie, which we'll say at the end of this one, which you could definitely go sequence by sequence in that movie. We'll get there, in 2 weeks from now, and not so much of a character study. I think for this movie, it might actually benefit, to do more of a deep dive into the characters, because I thought a lot about these characters as well, Richie, and kind of their backstory, because we've never really gotten a prequel or anything like that, or a lot of materials about what happened with these, again, allusions to certain things. I remember even I did like a Rocky debate on Henry's channel with him, and we were each pitching like a Rocky prequel, right? Like what that would look like. And I wanted to call it like Stallion and something like that, kind of about the the early Rocky kind of in his late teens, early 20s, as he's starting his boxing career and like with his family and whatnot. Just sort of exploring, the tidbits of information we get here and there, but not much even in the sequels, which isn't a lot. So I feel like there's a lot of speculation we can do about these characters as well in this movie. So, I feel like we can kind of work up to Rocky, kind of like we worked up to Mary Poppins, and Bert last time on Mary Poppins. So we can talk about some of the ancillary characters. So maybe let's start with like Apollo, because he doesn't have like a lot of screen time in this movie. He's a big character, and Carl Weathers is great. Don't get me wrong. I think he does his best work in Rocky 3, actually, as opposed to Rocky 1. He just gets the most like meat, on the bones to chew on in that movie, and the best kind of character arc. But he's kind of still amazing in the little screen time he gets in this movie.
He's very much like. Charisma machine. He's like, very channeling like, your Muhammad Ali, or very, very much your showman. I get it, and he's very, he does it well. You believe that he's actually, like a full on like boxer. I would believe that I see these sort of characters in, on TV and boxing or MMA all the time, all the time. So yeah.
No, it's totally believable. A guy named Apollo Creed, who is always kind of smiling for the cameras. Even the little bits we get on TV where he's just like, "Hey, kids, you stay in school, be a thinker, not a stinker." Use your brains. And when he's going back and forth with the promoter, when Green like drops out of the fight, and he's just like, "We'll find a solution." Solution, nothing. Just even the way he like delivers those quick lines, like you get who this character is, of just like he's always kind of looking for the next opportunity. He's always trying to find, the thing that's going to, keep him kind of in the spotlight. And don't get me wrong, he backs it up in the ring. Apparently he's like 46-0 or something. I mean, he's with a lot of knockouts. Like he's a legitimately great fighter. He just gets a little lazy in this one and kind of underestimates, his opponent, and thinks it's going to be, right on easy street.
Where it's like, when that's happening. That's happening to fighters. You get complacent too, where it's like, cool, dog. I'm just gonna put my foot on the brake here. Like this is gonna be a quick day at the office, and you get wake up call. He gets Gets punched first round. Like, oh shit! Okay.
Oh
Fine.
shit! I just got knocked down. Time to take it seriously. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's a I think it's a good lesson to humbleness. But he's not. Yeah. But then but at the end of the movie, it's not like. He sort of has reason to be humble, but not really. So, still.
Well, I mean, again, yeah, it is a show, and he is trying to promote, like, what he's promoting is sort of the biggest, maybe, boxing match ever, this bicentennial event, something like that. He wants to make it huge. He wants a gimmick to the fight. He literally says he wants like a novelty fight since dude broke out. That's why he's giving Rocky the opportunity, because, like, well, if I can't have this, let's make the ultimate, America underdog, thing, whatever. But it's interesting. We don't see him training. We do in the sequel. Because he has a reason to. But it's interesting that we never see his side of the training. But I think you get everything you need to know about how much training he's actually done for this fight in his entrance. How very much like a wrestling entrance of him riding on the fake boat as George Washington, holding along. And he has no concern with Rocky like whatsoever. It's all about the crowd.
He's putting more on energy into how his entrance is going to be, and how 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 he's going to entertain the crowd in that way. Like it's almost like winning's a foregone conclusion. So I'm just going to focus on the other aspects. I don't need to train. I don't need to train with it. I've beaten better fighters on paper. So this is nothing.
No, and not to jump ahead to the sequel, but yeah, in the sequel when he's won the fight, but he's getting all the letters and the commentaries, saying how he the fight was fixed, and he carried the bum, for how much money he got paid, blah blah blah. You do see him train in that sequel, and then when he has his entrance in the sequel, he's doing like the much more serious like jog to the ring, focused on Rocky the whole time. You see the change in character and attitude, and I think that's one of the things that makes the sequel so interesting, and some of the stuff going forward, which I think is fun. And it's one of those things where, and we'll talk about this a little at the end, how it became like a franchise, but you could have like a standalone, movie with full complete character arcs, with Apollo's, it's this, fighter who nearly loses to this, almost unknown guy and gets humbled, by the end of it. Right. So he escapes with the title, he wins, but, by the skin of his teeth, and you can imagine where he goes from there. Right.
I'd like to see it's cool. We've got so Apollo's but I would like to see like a prequel of Apollo. You know what I mean?
I think that would be cool, because I think there is a story there as well. Like, did he come from humble beginnings as well, and maybe got in his own ego in his own head as the years went on, and he did become like the best guy, everything's like that. I kind of wonder, how his upbringing was. We don't get a lot of allusions to that. Where he came from. So, so that's Apollo. We could talk about Mickey. I think Mickey, again, we get a little bit of his backstory. He talks a little bit about that, he's at Rocky's apartment, Rocky's not really listening, but he's sort of given a little bit of his history and kind of what he brings to the table, that he was this boxer. It seems like kind of they're during the Depression era, sort of like the 20s and 30s, maybe the roaring 20s, a little bit in the 30s. And it kind of seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, Richie, he was like maybe a boxer who had a few like noteworthy fights here and there, maybe was a contender at one point, but he never got the title. He never reached like the peak. You know what I mean? He almost got there, but not quite. And then it kind of passed.
Yeah. It was sort of like what you'd deem maybe these days as like the gatekeeper or journeyman.
Mm-hmm.
I think he sort of transitioned to coaching, where where he could kind of live vicariously through someone else, someone else, like a Rocky, and obviously he's very sort of a hard-nosed guy, and obviously Rocky's not listening at first, because like when we first meet Mickey, he's like chewing him out for like him not being being a nobody. Basically, it's like you fight bums. What is that?
You fight like a tomato. You never take my advice. You just kind of fight like an ape. You fight like a gorilla, and apparently, I mean, it's kind of a, we never get a clear answer. It's kind of a his word, my word versus your word. Because, Mickey said you never really came to me and asked for any help. Rocky said, I asked for help, but you weren't listening. The truth's probably somewhere in the middle. Maybe Rocky kind of wanted some help. Maybe Mickey gave him some help, but Rocky didn't really listen, to his help a little bit, at least at first, or kind of never really wanted. He just kind of fought his own way all the time, like he just kind of fought his style, and his style was blocking punches with his face, and not really wanting to learn a lot of other things, so maybe Mickey kind of strayed away and moved on to people who took it a little more seriously, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
that's kind of the backstory in my head from what I kind of get from
and probably if you see guys and probably in Mickey's point of view, it's you see a guy who's winning fights here and there, but you're always just going to be at just circling the drain at a certain level, because you don't gain enough momentum to sort of kind of move upwards. You're sort of always stagnant, and he probably attributes that to just sort of his fighting style and not listening to. So therefore, he's sort of I can see.
Well, and also I think Mickey, and he's not stupid. He's not oblivious. This seems like, even though it's in Philly, the area of Philly they're in, it seems like a pretty tight-knit community to where everybody kind of knows what everybody's doing, because everybody's like, oh, I heard you fight the other night, and so blah, blah, blah. It seems like everybody kind of knows each other in this neighborhood area, right? So, and Mickey probably knows, I think he knows that he's doing the loan shark thing too, and he doesn't respect that, as well. And also maybe he thinks that you're not fully committed to the boxing, you could have been if you fully committed to it, if you trained hard, like everybody else does, if you locked in on the boxing, you could have been somebody, and instead you chose to take these low level fights and be kind of a bum around the neighborhood and take this collecting job and scrap up for money, whichever, instead of taking it full on, committing yourself 100%. He probably sees that a little bit in Rocky.
I can definitely see it from that perspective as well.
So I mean, that's kind of Mickey, and we see a little bit, again, his training style is, and that's some of the best stuff in the movie is, of course, when he's actually training Rocky, and it's fun. And again, you don't get a lot of that in this movie. You kind of forget, you don't get a ton of him training Rocky in this one. You get enough of it, but not quite as much as you get in part two. You get way more of it.
You get more of him pumping up himself, doing the iconic, punching in the meat, the punching the meat stuff. I swear I didn't realize this at the time. I swear he goes past one of the meat, the slabs of raw meat, and I swear he goes to one of them. He goes moo.
No, he walks right past. No, I had the subtitles, and he walks past one, and he goes moo, and he pushes it. Yeah, but all that stuff is improvised from Stallone. A lot of that just little banter here and there, those little lines. Is just little improv things, again, with them just screwing around or whatever in character. So no, 100%. But no, I mean, we see a lot of that. Obviously all the stuff with him running around the neighborhood, eating the eggs. It's a lot of him. And then the actual stuff we get of Mickey is the one thing where he ties the string around, and then a little bit of the eating crap thunder, and that's really about all we get. We don't get a whole lot outside of that.
We only get the sort of the montage he's doing himself when we hear the iconic what's the song?
Gonna fly now.
Gonna fly now.
Yeah.
Which is great song, but it's become very trite and hack. If a fighter comes out to that song, okay, it's like that or I the Tiger, which interestingly, you don't hear it. You don't hear it in this movie. I'm like, what? I didn't hear it, but I don't know if it's
Guy of the Tiger was made for Rocky 3 by Survivor.
Rocky 3. That's right, Rocky 3. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was literally made for. He got Survivor to come up with a song for that movie specifically, and they came up with.
Okay. I think it was the Mandela effect, where I was like, "Whoa, well, that song's so iconic. It must be
no.
the first one." not
Nope.
the third.
Rocky 3. Yep. And then Survivor did some songs for Rocky 4 as well. They did the Hearts on Fire song and things like that. So yeah, if you and the Burning Heart song, things like that. So they kind of became, maybe it's because they were synonymous with like the Rocky sequels that you thought they were around for the original as well. No, come on, they didn't have the budget to get a band to sing them a song, Richie. Come on.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. No, but the soundtrack is still very much iconic. But yeah, it is kind of become so ingrained in pop culture that when you see like a parody of it or anybody using it in an MMA thing or something, it is kind of hacky at this point. It's like it's fun to death. So it is what it is. Let's talk a little bit about Paulie. So Paulie's an interesting character because he's like, it's like MJF. You know how we talk about an MJF, like how the crowd will chant like he's our scumbag. Like Paulie's a scumbag, but he's kind of like our scumbag. You know, that you would like, you kind of want to have a beer with, but at the same time you'd want to punch him in the mouth half the time. You know, like one of those guys.
He's an asshole who kind of who shows that he's like there's good in there, but he shows that he's more of an asshole more often than not. Than the good side, and then when you feel like he's on the good, you feel like he's coming good, then he'll do something shitty, he'll let his anger or something happen. You're like okay, so sometimes you feel like man, like Rocky has a lot of patience with this guy. He's got a lot of will. I think it's just a test of. I think Paulie is the antithesis at what like Rocky could have become if he went down a certain path. I guess that's what I've sort of read into that, where it's like like the kind of like I don't think Paulie has a outside of the friendship, he doesn't have a lot going for him, and he's kind of a drunk, and very volatile, and I could you could see if Rocky didn't fully still did the loan shark thing, and kind of was just still scrambling. That could have easily been him, especially if he was sort of still hanging around. Obviously going to be hanging around with Paulie. So I see them as sort of Paulie as a mirror as to what an alternate Rocky if he didn't kind of straighten up.
Yeah, no, and we don't get much of his backstory, but again, from what I can kind of piece together in my head from the dynamic, so it's this weird, interesting situation where him, obviously, and Adrian are brother and sister, so they're siblings. They live in this house by themselves. They each have a job. He works at the meat plant, and she works at the pet shop. I have a theory, and tell me if I'm off, that I think they had like a single dad growing up who was kind of abusive, I think, if I had to guess. And that Paulie kind of takes the traits of his abusive dad, because, they say that behavior can be sort of passed down, from like, a father to a son sort of a thing, if it happens, and they sort of take on those same traits because that's what they see around time, especially if he was a drunk as well. And he's kind of a drunk, which is why Adrian is so sheltered. And kind of what she is, she's very sheltered. She doesn't talk much, maybe because, when him and maybe Paulie and the dad would kind of have it out in the living room, she's kind of hiding, back in the room, at the end of the hallway, keeping to herself. And she never, dated because maybe the one or two times she went on a date, she got kind of hassled for it, criticized for it, and whatnot, and made to feel inferior. But I have a feeling that the father passed away at some point, and I think they're living in like the parents' house. The two of them kind of taking care of it. And when she says, I take care of you, Paulie, I do all the chores, I cook, I clean, all that stuff. I could see that, that he doesn't really know how to take care of himself, maybe even Adrian, as a younger person kind of did all the stuff around the house as well for the drunk dad, something like that. I just have this weird feeling they had like a drunk parent, drunk abusive parent or something like that in the household. So
you can tell, like, that, like, there's, like, I mean, I guess with, drunk abusive, parents or just drunk abusive people in general, like, they can go from, just the smallest thing, they can go from 0 to 100 very quickly. There'll be
kind of like Paulie does throughout the movie on the slightest
that's
thing.
what I mean. Like it's like
Yeah.
Paul, like they'll have the slightest disagreement, and then you'll be like, "Oh, well, I wish you weren't." You'll be kind of say something stuff like, "I wish you weren't born," or what? Something to that effect. You're like, "Jesus," yeah. Or that's the scene where like they come over for Christmas, and he's like, "I don't," and he's drunk.
I don't need your help. I don't need anything from you. Yeah. He just like flies off.
A baseball bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, as soon as Rocky, somebody who could clearly handle Paulie physically, gets, kind of grabs him, he like breaks down like a little child and almost cries. You know what I mean? Like he's got, like he puts on that, tough guy, outer shell, but I think he's really just kind of a broken guy, at his center.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like who doesn't like really want to be like that, but just kind of is by nature, or by the way he was raised, I think.
Yeah, and you can see that. I mean, the MJF parallel is pretty good, because you can sometimes with MJF's character, you can see that people like, so when in certain feuds, people break through to him, and he gets vulnerable. And you can see that the kind of that layer being stripped from him. Like I think in that feud he had with CM Punk, he kind of got vulnerable there for a bit. Obviously, in that brief babyface run, which but yeah, it's like there is that kind of like that anger that's covering up something. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, and that kind of leads into Adrian, who, again, it's kind of like I said, I think she was very sheltered. I think she was kind of stuck close to home. It probably took all she had just to even get the part-time job at the pet shop, to even get out of the house. Because I'd imagine it's one of those things where, maybe Paulie or whoever just wanted her to stay home and do the chores, but maybe she was like, I just have to get out of this house and away from the situation occasionally. So I just need to like close the pet shop just to get out of here, which I don't blame her. Just for like a change of scenery, but that's why she doesn't talk. She's very shy. She's hesitant around men at all, which I could see that. Again, if you grew up with a potentially like abusive dad or in a hectic household, you would also, and that's a real psychological thing, be not very trusting of men, for the most part. That makes sense.
And it comes to stands to reason, if he's got a abusive dad, then there could be other people in her family, like an uncle, or maybe his dad, the grandfather, that they could also be that way inclined. You got to learn it from, you sort of learn it from somewhere. So it stands to reason that it might not just be that, it could be other people that kind of also made her kind of retreat into this sort of shell, and be kind of weary.
Yeah, no, and maybe she's never had a situation where she's had a guy be interested in her at all, or be like genuinely want to be nice to her. Like maybe it's just one of those things where she's off, taken aback by it when it does happen. And the fact that he's also kind of, I think when she sees that Rocky's kind of a struggling guy too, just by himself, maybe they kind of connect on that level, that they're both having these situations that they've dealt with in their life and had to overcome, so that maybe that's why they connect on that level, to where they, they appreciate just, the other person and relying on them, and, more than the situation that they're in, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I respect that he's definitely trying to get her attention at the pet shop at first, because that's like, just talking about whatever. It's like, sure, cool, yep. Yeah.
he comes in every day and gives like the daily rundown of what he did the day before. You know what I mean? They took a longer ride at the gym. Ran into this, blah blah blah. I got a hell of a joke for you. That sort of thing. He it's definitely like mostly a one-sided conversation all the time, other than the bye Rocky, or see you later, sort of thing. She finally starts to open up at the ice rink, like that scene where she finally starts to like ask him a few more questions, kind of about his life and his career and whatnot, and he opens up a little more.
Yeah, and he buys turtles called Cuff and Link at the
shop.
And then there's an ice rink there where she becomes more vulnerable, and like he lies about her being sick, so he could like they could use it. Was it after hours, or just before they were gonna before they were shutting. They were going to shut because there was no business around or something. They weren't getting any business. It was quiet. So it was like, all right, yeah, all right, 10 minutes. Yeah, $10 for 10 minutes or something. So yeah,
fastest 10 minutes ever. By the way, I timed that dude was counting down much faster than what it actually was. That dude, like every 10 seconds, that dude was like 9 minutes. 20 seconds later, 8 minutes. It was like a casino gauntlet on AEW.
It was reverse movie time because usually, like, if you watch like Shout Out to Steve and you watch 24, after that goes quickly. But yeah, or like if if a bomb's going off in a movie, it's like
it's stretched. The 30 seconds is 5 minutes in the movie. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. That dude was like counting down super fast. He's like 10 minutes are up. I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure it's only been like 3 minutes, but all right, sure. Yeah, you're just kind of taking my $10. You're ready to go home. So, yeah, let's talk about Rocky then. And again, there's never really been a lot of backstory on Rocky. You've got a few things here and there of like the parents, a mention here or there. Again, I think it's a weird situation where he's on his own. It doesn't seem like he has any family. We never meet any of his other family or, any flashbacks or anything in any of the movies. I think it might be a situation, Richie, again, this is all speculation, so take this all with a grain of salt, just from coming from a Rocky fan. I think it's something where maybe in his late teens or something, or whatever. I think he lost both of his parents at some point, or lost one and then the other. I think they're gone. I don't think they're around. I think he was made to fend for himself. Maybe not as a kid, but like I'm thinking like in his teens or something, maybe late teens. And that he's just kind of been on his own since then. So maybe he's had like odd jobs around Philly or any other kind of manual labor jobs, maybe working on docks, whatever, and then started boxing as like a hobby, sort of a thing, and got into it and found out he was kind of a tough guy and he can handle it. So,
or like maybe kind of because he grew up rough, kind of worked out that he probably had, it'd be good to learn to box because he probably got into, I could see him sort of maybe, got into fights,
fights in school, fights around town. Yeah.
The street stuff. I'm guessing too, by the way, like, how like in his room he had all these photos and it was like him as a kid. I'm guessing, was that a real, I guess that's a real photo of him as a kid, right?
It looked like a real childhood photo, 100%, because it was also like black and white. Like, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it looked generally like because sometimes you could, in movies you could tell, that's just a random photo. But yeah, I'm like, no, that looked generally like him, and you could tell like he's like, like maybe also to Mickey's point about like not being like sort of disciplined with like the boxing is like he's not like living healthy. I thought it was funny when he brings Adrian to the house. He's just like, oh, you want any food? I've got like donuts. I've got like all these like unhealthy food,
cupcakes and donuts and beer. Healthy
cupcakes and donuts and beer. So like eats like a slot. So yeah, if you want to be a boxer, you can't eat that. Like full time, you can eat that shit. It's funny too, like obviously because the sort of way he talks, he's like not that articulate. He reminds me of like the way he sort of his mannerisms, the way he talks, at least initially, is like a Diaz brother. And you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm saying,
yeah. It's a lot of like kind of meandering and mumbling. Yeah, I mean, well, and also it's 100% he dropped out of high school. Like I think that's canon, that he never even like finished high school. He's not in a super like. Well, he's one of those guys where he's not formally educated, but he does have street smarts. Like he can read people. He does know his way around town. Like he knows people, right? Like he can work his way around the streets, but he just doesn't have like the formal education. Obviously, as we see more in Rocky 2, like he can't even barely read, anything, as much as it is. And I think the relationship with Gazzo, if I had to guess, I would imagine Gazzo went to one of these like local fights, in a church, in a VA, wherever, you know what I mean? Like saw him fight, maybe saw him kind of struggling, maybe followed him around for a little bit and was like, hey kid, I saw you only made, $40 from that fight or whatever. You can't be, you got a mean left hook. You want help me, you're an intimidating guy, maybe help me out a little bit, collect from these guys. I'll pay you a few extra bucks on the side. And you just kind of got ingrained in that world, not really thinking about, maybe his reputation from there on, from being a loan shark collector, but like he was just kind of desperate for money, at some point.
Yeah. It's and then I guess you never really see a scene where he's like fully out of it. It's just like he has that scene where he's supposed to break a guy's thumb, he doesn't, and then he gets chewed out for it, but he doesn't really like leave. He doesn't.
No, I mean he keeps going. I think he keeps going until he gets the official fight, and I think Gazzo realizes like, dude's about to get paid. He's not going to be a thumb breaker anymore, and he's got to train. He's like, I got to find. I'm going to find Gazzo. At least he's an interesting guy because he's like he's a shitty loan shark collector, but he also like at least has a smidge of humanity to him because when he's about to go on the date with Adrian, he gives him like $50 just because just like, hey, take your girl out, show her a good time, and when Rocky starts to train, he knows that Rocky doesn't have a manager, he doesn't have an official trainer, and he gives him money for his training expenses. So like he at least has like some air of humanity about him. He's not like the shittiest loan shark in the world. So and even when Rocky gives him the 130 from the guy, he essentially is like, I'm pretty sure he's good for it next week. Like, he gives him another week to come up with the rest of the money. So he's not like sending him back the next day to collect again. Yeah. So, I mean, he's a loan shark, yes, and loan sharks are shitty. But at the same time, like, I've seen more ruthless loan sharks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it'd be one of those guys that, like, could definitely, he's lucky he's, like, probably in this situation, he's, like, the boss. Because if he was, like, just like a, if he was like a
lieutenant or something, like
if he was doing the deed, he'd be the one chewed out for not being ruthless enough, and then he'd probably get his thing, his thing or whatever. Yeah.
So no, it's an interesting relationship there. But I mean, he's there ringside for the fight. He's cheering him on, and I think he even goes to the wedding in part 2. So there's a little bit of something there to where they're kind of still friendly, off to the side. But I think he realizes obviously now that he's a famous boxer, he can't be going around breaking thumbs anymore. And Paulie eventually becomes one of the collectors in the sequel. He becomes like one of the guys for Gazzo. So he actually does follow up on that in Rocky 2. But I mean, I think it's interesting, when Rocky gets presented the opportunity, he turns it down initially. Like, he kind of has to be coaxed into it because I think he's just like, look, they're just gonna like, I'm gonna get my ass kicked and I'm gonna get knocked out. I don't love being humiliated, on a big stage. He doesn't like being made fun of and humiliated, for what he is. He knows what he is, and he's got at least that humbleness where he's like, I can't beat this guy. He's the fucking heavyweight champion. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not feasible. Like, he knows that. Like,
yeah. Wish I wish some people in reality knew that. I don't know if you know. Ronda Rousey's supposed to be coming to boxing and fighting Katie Taylor, who, if you look her up, she had that fight before Logan Paul and Mike Tyson. She's one of the best female boxers of all time. She's going to get destroyed. So hopefully, I'm glad that Rocky has the wherewithal to be kind of self-aware enough. But no, this is, I don't I don't want to be known as the guy who just took a look at a beating. So I can see from that I can definitely understand from his perspective why he wouldn't want to take the fight, even though it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go up there and just get my head kicked in and, I'll have like a 15 minutes of fame or something like that. But I'm going to get my head kicked in. And then what? I go back to, I get a payday and then I go back to just being, Rocky again, bumming around Philadelphia. He just doesn't think anything's going to come of it. So like, why bother? It's the opportunity that if he had 5 or 10 years earlier, he probably would have jumped on it to then make a career out of that, right? But he kind of figures he's near the end of his career anyways, or what, even though he's only 30. But, again, realistically, how many boxers make it to 40? You know what I mean?
In combat sports, like, you're winding down your career around 35. So,
right. Yeah. Unless you're, what's his name? The guy who was the football player and the boxer, the guy who was like 50. Herschel Walker, yeah, it was on Bully Beatdown as well. If you're just like completely a freak of nature like that or something, and you start your MMA career at like 47, yeah, yeah. I mean, and you know, there's MMA fighters who hang around for, you know, Randy Couture hung around for a while.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah, there's been people like that who go for a bit, but yeah, I think they're the exceptions to the rule. But yeah, and I think if you're heavier, I think it, you know, like, because you still got that punching power. Like if you're a heavier guy.
Well, George Foreman in the 90s winning the title in the 90s, you know, because he was the heavyweight, he had the punching power, and him winning the title in 1994, 95, you know, whatever it was, George Foreman won it. Way late in his career, you know, because he was still just a massive dude, you know, with a heavy punch. Yeah, I mean, that was the idea, I think, around there. But yeah, in general, in athletics in general, like, not many people make it into their 40s. They just don't. It's just that your body is just, cannot keep up with a 20-year-old, you know, in the same sport, right? At the peak. It just and even in, you know, American football, you know, European, you know, soccer, you know, whatever it is, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, unless it's a very low impact thing. The only real athletes you see make it into their 40s is like in American football, like the kickers, because they don't get hit a lot. You just kick. So, you know, you'll see kickers in their 40s, things like that. You know, punters, you know, whatever it is, or you know, you'll see pitchers like in baseball sometimes, like Nolan Ryan, guys like that, make it into their 40s, you know, because it's just not as high impact on their bodies, you know. But yeah, it's very rare.
It's weird. There's this shift in wrestling where people are retiring older than they used to.
No, I mean, most guys, I mean, WWE roster is like the median age is like 40 right now. It's really weird. So not a lot of like super young guys, or late 30s at least.
And you still got like people like, you know, not on a full-time basis, but you still got like Edge and Christian wrestling, and people like that, and Jericho's still around. So it's weird. It's interesting. It's just AJ Styles. I mean, he's retiring, but he's still doing stuff. So
well, that's also modern science and modern technology, modern health, you know what I mean, as well. Being able to have the resources to keep in shape maybe a little longer than you used to, you know, or what we know about things like that in training regimens. So Brock Lesnar being the most shredded he's ever been at Survivor Series in like his whole career. My God, is that guy more shredded than himself? Jesus Christ. That guy's.
He's a freak of nature. So, there's people. It's interesting to know kind of, but in a general rule, like if you're definitely a boxer and also in combat sport, if you're 30, you don't have like a lot of time left. You got like about especially if you want to break into, you know, he's at the point where he's trying to break into big time, you know.
You can't start, because it's going to take you minimal 5 years to even become a star. If anything, if you even make a splash. So that's why most people start, at 20, and you maybe become a star at 25 or 30, you know, something like that.
Realistically, if you want to be like make anything as a professional, like boxer or like mixed martial arts, or, you know, people start training as a kid. So,
a kid or a teenager, and you start with like amateur competitions, Golden Gloves, you know, competitions very early, or even Olympics, you know, things like that. Very, very early. That's you kind of have to be committed and know that you're going to do that for a while. But you know, obviously Rocky gets the fight. You know, it's not the most spectacular fight of the series, obviously, again, because it's a very low budget. They don't have a lot to work with. They had a very small shooting schedule, but Stallone did choreograph the fight. You get the idea, because it's always jarring to me, even in this first one, we go from like, you see round 1, you see round 2, and then it goes 3, 5, 7, and like we don't see any of it. We just see the cards, you know what I mean? Before you know it, we're like round 13, and we're like, oh, okay, we're already through the fight then.
With the weird looking Statue of Liberty looking chick. I'm like, man, man, I like ring girls. They're hot, and you made her look weird.
You put like silver paint all over her face. She looks weird. I don't know. Again, the sequel goes much more with like the straightforward lady and like the single, like leotard kind of thing, you know what I mean? So much more straight. But again, the sequel shows us way more of the fight, way more rounds. You get like a full-on montage of like at least the middle portion of the fight, like a full kind of montage of the progression, whatnot. We just kind of have to infer most of it that, Rocky got his licks in those first 2-3 rounds. Apollo maybe stepped up his game, took it more seriously, probably dominated him for a lot of those middle rounds, put a beating on him. And you can just tell from, Rocky's face that he's taking a pounding, for the entire thing. And then Rocky, and then Rocky, that last 2 rounds, gets the last couple of shots in, and almost takes it at the end, which maybe swayed the judges a tad, but not enough to win the fight. That's the idea, essentially.
Yeah, I like when they like kind of huddle together, like in the corner. He goes, and then Apollo goes, "You're not getting a rematch." He goes, "I don't want one."
Yeah, I mean, because I think he knows. Apollo knows at that point what's going to happen after the fight. I mean, he's a pro. He's been in the boxing business a long time.
Yeah,
fights.
If you ever really, if there's a sporting story, especially a fight, and it's like it's a really close fight, and a fight that you weren't expecting to be close, and people are really excited, like, let's run it back. We got to run it back.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that. It's not only the run back. I think Apollo knows with the performance, with Rocky being the first guy to go the distance with him, and almost it being a split decision, him almost losing, he knows the blowback already that he's going to get from the media and from the commentators. He already knows. He knows what's coming. That, he won the fight, because he even says in the second one, he's like, man, I won, but I didn't beat him. He says that when in the back and forth to Duke in the sequel, which is what I like his arc in the second one. He's like, I won, but I didn't beat him, and everybody's saying, he won, he should have won that fight. He won that fight. And I think Apollo even knows, Apollo wants the rematch in the sequel. Rocky doesn't, because Rocky, he's just like, I don't want to get my ass kicked again for 15 rounds or 3, whatever it is. He's just like, it's like a beating in that fight. I'd rather transition this into like a normal boxing career, probably not be like the top guy, right? He doesn't see himself as the top guy.
Happy being a journeyman kind of role.
Yeah. He's like, I'll use the fame to maybe, get some higher profile fights, but not go one-on-one with the Apollo Creed again. I'm not a contender. That's kind of getting into the sequel, but that's the story of like, it's not about him. Yeah, that's the point in the movie, though. It's not about him winning or losing. It's about him going the distance. He just wants to be that guy nobody's ever gone the distance with Creed. He just wanted to be that guy, much like one of the inspirations of the film was Chuck Wepner, if anybody knows the Chuck Wepner fight with Muhammad Ali. He was the one guy that went the distance with Ali, and he knocked him down at one point in the fight. So it's kind of a similar story there. It took a lot of punishment, but kind of stood toe to toe with Ali and didn't go down. So it's one of those interesting things.
Yeah. And and the cool thing about like sports is you get that, I think there's I like a good sort of, because I like a good underdog story, because sometimes, it's cool to have like, athletes that dominate or whatever, but after a while, it tends to get a bit samey, a bit boring. So it's cool, like when somebody you don't expect just comes out of nowhere and is like, "Oh shit, yeah." So the story
shake things up a little bit, yeah.
The story that happens in every sport. So that's kind of cool, and I think it can be told really well in the medium of film, and so especially boxing. I think boxing, I think one of the best examples. What's her name? Who kick knocked out Ronda Rousey. Holly, who came out of nowhere, who was like, she was an up and comer, but she wasn't like a main eventer yet, and then everybody thinks Ronda Rousey's the baddest woman on the planet, and she gets obliterated in that fight and head kick knocked out, and she is a star. Yeah. She's like huge. Yeah, it's
Or what was it? Gabriel Gonzaga when he head kicked Mirko Krokop.
Yeah, Mirko Krokop into the next. Yeah, he Krokop.
Yeah. And when Krokop was one of the biggest, stars in the world of MMA, and everybody thought he was kind of unstoppable, and then this kid Gabriel Gonzaga head kicks his head off and becomes a star in his own way.
He beat him in a way that Krokop would have. It's like, holy shit. And he got a title shot off that.
That's what I mean. Like, those stories are kind of cool that come out of nowhere sometimes. The people who you don't really give a chance to, and they become a star in one night. So so it's pretty cool. and to see stuff like that in real life, even if it doesn't pan out to them being like one of the greatest of all time or anything like that, there's those moments in sports are still cool, that sort of thing.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think that at its core too, I think like this movie is sort of, it's almost like this love story because it's like like you've got like Adrian who we talked about before, who's like very very shy, very keeps herself very sheltered, just goes about a day, very routine like, and then goes home, does whatever, and it looks after Paulie, probably not deep down not very happy, and she's met Rocky, and then over time she's able to open up, and then they become sort of inseparable, and then like the first thing he says after being interviewed after the fight is he just wants Adrian, and then they kind of Adrian, and then and then they hug. That's just the last shot of the film. It's just sort of because these two sort of people who sort of were very who lived sort of really hard lives, or came from broken homes or whatever, found each other, or I think that's kind of
they were able to find each other and kind of start a new chapter in their life essentially, based on this event. So the core, it's definitely like a character study and a love story, and that's there's not a lot of boxing in this movie. It's not really like a full-on boxing movie. Yes, it's a movie about a boxer and there is boxing in it, but not as much as you might think. If you've seen the sequels first and then you go back and watch this movie, and there's one quick fight at the beginning and then the end fight, and that's really about it. There's not a lot of there's not really a lot of boxing going on in this one. It's just this kind of, and it makes sense for a 70s movie, Richie, too. A lot of 70s movies were character studies. They were very much just like the other movies. It's up against Taxi Driver is a character study. It's not the slam bang action vigilante movie. It's about this character, for 2 hours.
Or it's not 70s. It's a lot earlier, but On the Waterfront, there's not a lot of boxing in that. That's a character study.
No, it's just a character study about Marlon Brando. Yeah, 100%. It's very similar. Yeah, it's just about that. So, but still a great movie. Holds up. As far as the rest of the franchise, just kind of jumping ahead, if I had to give quick micro reviews of the series, just very quickly, I like Rocky 2 a lot. I like where the Apollo storyline goes. I like the stuff with Rocky not knowing how to manage money and just kind of jumping into it and quickly realizing that he's not great with that, but still realizing he's kind of a boxer to his core, so he's got to keep it going. I like all the stuff that happens in that movie. The Rocky 3, the Apollo stuff is great. Him becoming the trainer, and his friend and that core thing, and Clubber Lang being the underdog with sort of the eye of the tiger, that fire that Rocky used to have that he doesn't have anymore, I think is interesting as well, and I think he does a great job. Rocky 4 is pure cheese, but it's a ton of fun. You know what it is. Have you seen the alternate cut of Rocky 4, the director's
I haven't. The one that came out a couple of years ago.
It came out a couple of years ago. So it debuted at a Fathom event. So I saw it in the theater. But it's available now. Both on, you can get it on VOD and the 4K Rocky collection. I just picked up. I upgraded my Blu-ray set to the 4K set because the 4K set also has Rocky Balboa. It also has 2 cuts of Rocky Balboa as well as both cuts of Rocky 4. It has on physical. It has the original cut and the new cut. The new cut is interesting because it's still the same basic plot at the center of it, but it cuts out a lot of the cheesy stuff. All the robot stuff is gone, 100%. No robot stuff at all with him and Paulie. It's a much more serious tone movie. There's more stuff with Apollo, so there's more stuff about the fight with him and Drago is a little longer, where he dies. It's a little more dragged out and longer, which I like. But also, there's this theme about Apollo going out as this way of the warrior thing that Duke even has a monologue that wasn't in the original movie at his funeral that he talks about the way of the warrior going out with a warrior's death, going out on the battlefield essentially. And it's really interesting that he wanted to die a warrior. It's an interesting theme.
Yeah, I was going to say that I knew that the funeral sort of seems a bit long, but they ready that up.
Yeah. So it just has a general sense of being a more serious movie. It still has a few choppy editing things here and there. You can tell Stallone like played with it for a really long time because it was like a passion project. So it's a little clunky here and there, just with some of the transitions. But Drago has way more to, like a couple more lines in the movie. Like there's more to his character a little bit, even more just more checking out on him and different things. So it's still essentially the same movie, just a lot of the cheese is pulled out essentially. If you want to see a more serious cut, it's interesting.
I feel like there's only a matter of time before we get a Clubber Lang or Drago spinoff, by the way.
I think a Clubber Lang spinoff would be really interesting because, you know, this it'd be similar to a Rocky thing where he's like this Chicago street brawler, you know, kind of training on his own as well, you know, and being this like probably guy growing up in the projects or the slums, you know, and kind of working his up, but having that fire in him, you know, from something, you know, and eventually seeing these like paper, you know, champions and, you know, even like a racial thing. I've seen these like white guys, you know, getting these opportunities out of nowhere and he's busting his ass, you know, just taking it super seriously and beating the shit out of people and these other showmen and clowns, as he would call them, you know, coming up through the ranks. I think it would be really interesting. So
yeah. No, I think that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, because I think Michael B. Jordan's indicated that, you know, he's got more ideas. There's more ideas happening. And he's been talking to people, so it's cool that he's got like a lot of passion behind the franchise and most of the, you know, he's a intelligent guy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got going.
You know, Rocky V is not great, but I think it's still watchable. There's some interesting things there. Although I think Rocky V actually has gotten better over time with Creed, because I've always thought of Creed as like one of the reasons in my mind that Rocky is hesitant to take on a protege and like coach somebody else is because of how badly it went with Tommy Gunn in Rocky V. Yeah. So I've always attributed to that his hesitancy. So I think Rocky V actually lent some credence to that, just personally. So it kind of helps bolster it a little bit.
I do think people kind of look at Rocky V like it's like, you know, just like, people, I guess, you know, people exaggerate a lot, but like, you know, like it's a dumpster fire. It's not. It's just it's clearly, you know, I feel like if you're analyzing the Rocky ones, it's one of the most faults, but you know, you can have fun with it if you just go ahead and have fun with it.
Yeah, 100%. Creed is obviously, or Rocky Balboa is a lot of fun, you know, seeing, you know, kind of a twist of just the older Rocky as one last hurrah, you know, as one last thing. And I like sort of the modern twist on it and whatnot. And it's interesting to see a Rocky movie without Adrian, as much as, you know, some people may not like that. I think it's interesting to see Rocky without her, you know, and kind of, you know, trying to struggle to keep going, you know, without it. So at least it was, again, something different. And I appreciated that. You know, Creed is great. We love Creed, and Stallone's great in it, you know, doing it again, playing kind of the side, you know, supporting character. And he's awesome.
He got an Oscar nomination for supporting. Oh, yeah.
He should have won over Mark Rylance, in my opinion, but okay.
I believe he should have, but yeah.
Yep. And then I love Creed 2. Creed 2 is my favorite of the Creeds, only because I adore the stuff they do with Drago in that movie. I love the fact that it's like the son of Drago, but it also follows up on what happened to him after that fight. And what I always kind of speculate would happen is that this crazy government would just abandon that dude and be like, well, you humiliated us in front of the world. And you failed. And what happened was he had to flee to Ukraine and like live a sheltered secret life, basically, you know, and Bridget Nielsen left him, and like he had this kid, but you know, he was disgraced in front of his entire country and essentially exiled. Like, I think that's fascinating, you know, for what it is.
He basically uses a tool for the government, and then that blew up in their face, so they flew to Ukraine. Fled to Ukraine, which is something unfortunately you can't, you know, wouldn't give you safety now, unfortunately, but you know, back then, like that, I do find that interesting that that they answered those questions, because it's like I like the attention to detail and that they've answered those questions. It's like, he decided to retire. And because he lost one, I think that's more interesting
that he was like exiled from the country because of this loss. Yeah,
yeah,
this humiliation. No, and it's fascinating. Yeah, when you watch it, he gets a lot more like character depth. He has like the monologue when he first goes to Adrian's and talks to Rocky. That's really interesting. Where he talks about how he lost everything, and well, like to where you almost have sympathy for him, which I think is really cool when you can do that with a character. And essentially, there was even a deleted scene. I wish they kept it in the movie where after the final fight, Rocky goes into the training room of the Drago characters and has a sit down and essentially forgives Drago for killing Apollo. I think it's really fascinating. So, so I mean, there's some interesting stuff in that movie I really, really like. So,
I think if I broke it down, I think Creed is my favorite as well. Creed 3, I like, but it does have I think it's probably out of the three, it's my lesser one. But there are parallels I do like about it, like I feel like Jonathan Majors' arc in that is sort of almost similar to like Rocky's in a sense that like he was a guy, like I mean he came, he was a boxer, but like he was far away from like being a title contender or whatever, but he got the title the shot based on like circumstance, kind of a guy. Based on the rivalry, and then I thought Jonathan Majors was like really good in it, and I thought for the most part the choreography was really good. There was like one scene where then they go kind of bit Dragon Ball Z on it, but I still think it's really good. It's just like the other two are so good that it kind of it's a bit lesser, but it's still. It's still good. Like again, there's a lot of like Rocky parallels. I wish he was more like Rocky was in it. The only thing they do is like he's at this memorial for it's for somebody that you'd think he'd be there. It's like a memorial for somebody, and it's like he sends in a card or something. And he just reads
Is it Adonis's mom? Is it like the Felicia Rashad character, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, I think it's Adonis's mom or something. Yeah, you'd think like I don't know. You'd think that Rocky would actually.
That Rocky would be at the wake at least like in a cameo, like a one scene. Right.
Put me off a little bit. It's like but I think. But all I'll say like at the moment it's been a solid like trilogy.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, it's not even a bad movie. It's just kind of my least favorite of those. And if somebody said any one of those movies was their favorite out of those, I would totally get it. So, but yeah, it's again a very consistent franchise. You know what you're getting. I think there's a good amount of quality to most of them. And I don't necessarily think because I don't know. I know Rocky 5 gets dumped on. I don't even think it's like that bad of a movie. So I wouldn't even say I don't even think there's like a downright terrible movie in this franchise, personally.
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't think so either. I also think that the people involved have too much. They have too much. There's too much like passion and care involved, especially and to let it like sink to. I feel like they wouldn't let it sink to too much lows. There might be we could get a bad movie down the line or a bad Rocky thing, but I don't know. I don't feel like it would get to the point where it was like there'll be one where it's like a franchise killer sort of thing. You know what I mean? Or it's like oh man, like they really they really jumped the shark kind of thing. I feel like that they're very aware and they're very it's not just like a cash grab property where. With a lot of Hollywood these days, where it's like, that didn't make money. Okay, on to the next one. I think that I'm got faith that the very least they'll make, they'll strive to make good films, and they'll probably succeed.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, Michael B. Jordan, I think, is clearly a fan of the franchise. Ryan Coogler was a fan of the franchise. So like you have these fans. Like Dan Trachtenberg's clearly a Predator fan, taking care of the franchise, that sort of thing. You have these guys who are legitimate, like fans of this stuff, kind of trying to do it justice. So, I think they're not with every franchise. I think they're definitely cash grab Conjuring, Insidious. Anyway, where there's a lot of hacks kind of directing stuff in the franchise. That they're not taking care of it. But yeah, I think there are, for these ones that at least go back as far as they do, with like a Predator or a Rocky, things like that. You do have some people still trying to bring some luster to it, You don't
want to get to the situation where there was literally like when they did the Halo TV show that there was like the people who were like directing or running it. Like one person acknowledged in an interview that didn't play the games. I'm like, I don't know if I'd say that out loud. But
there was something else. It was like one of the Amazon things or something where somebody was like, they hired all these people who had never seen the thing it was based on. I'm like, well, why the fuck why are you getting hired for shit like this? What do you have to do with this? Like, oh, we want to bring something fresh to it. Well, how about you respect the fans too, who are invested in this property? Stupid. Like, no. Like you can tell, like, the people who made like the Super Mario Brothers movie cared about, the fans and doing justice to that, things like that. And the new one's going to be the same thing, there's ones where you can tell that the people who wrote this or run it, the Sonic movies or whatever, things like that, they respect the fanfare, and the lore, and there's other ones that like don't give a shit.
Just if I was a filmmaker, right, and someone came to me and was like, hey, we're thinking about like hiring you for like a Chainsaw Man movie. I'm like, well, I'm not the right guy. I'm not an anime guy. So no,
maybe go find some anime fans who are really passionate about that. Oh, I don't know. I'll take a crack at it, even though I've never seen an episode. Sure. That's where you get into trouble. So that's a whole nother conversation for another day, but it is what it is. That does peeve me as well when I see stuff like that or people quote that. I'm like, maybe you should have kept that to yourself when you say that out loud. But anyways, we'll see what the Rocky franchise kind of has in store going forward. They've talked about that kind of the Creed daughter spinoff or doing the TV show, whatever it is. We'll see what happens with that. The I Am Rocky movie, next year should be interesting. That kind of behind the scenes of this movie should be interesting. I hope they do it. The guy who's playing Stallone, by the way, is the same guy who played Al Pacino in that Offer TV show. Speaking of the Offer, so he's a guy who looks like a '70s actor. So I think they just cast him again. The guy who they got playing Carl Weathers looks a lot like him though too. So it should be interesting. They can kind of recreate that. So because even his casting was interesting too. There's a funny story about him. In an audition where he was reading lines with Stallone. He didn't know who Stallone was. So he said he got fired up because he was like, man, this guy can't act. Can you give me a real actor in here so I can, do some real work in here? Whatever. He got like really fired up. And Stallone then said he was the writer of the movie and potentially the star. And, Carl got like really, taken aback by that, and he apologized and whatnot, but he was like, no, like that's the fire I want for Apollo, like you're hired. That sort of thing, you know what I mean? So he had kind of inadvertently got him the job. So there's even stories like that will probably be in the movie, things like that. So,
that's pretty fun.
That'll be a lot of fun to see. So we'll see how that pans out. But those are the next sort of chapters of the Rocky franchise. So we'll see where that goes. I'm sure we may spin a Rocky or a Creed movie at some point, another one, and we'll dig a little bit more into some of these things. But we've gone along tonight. We got some wrestling to talk about. So let's wrap it up here. And let's what you got going on, Richie?
I did a Why We Love trivia match. Should be uploaded soon enough. A team that match was me and Malcolm versus during pod as well, Cohen and the Webs. So check that out. That was fun. Catch you on your marks in a sec here. I'll be on Tournament Fights tomorrow. I haven't been on Tournament Fights tomorrow, but on the Grumpy Old Men tournament. So
we're calling it the Grumpy Old Men tournament. The Get Off My Lawn bracket is what it is. So
the Get Off My Lawn bracket. So I'll be on that. So that should be fun. Keep an eye for it.
Yeah, no, as far as me, we'll have Lonely Marks here in a little bit. I'll link that in the Movie Hero Network Facebook group if you guys need a link to that channel and our shows. We'll be doing that. And then I got a full week next week of all kinds of madness. I've got like 7 nights in a row of shit. I think everybody's trying to get in their shows before the holidays. So I got a full week. I'll be on Rankum Sunday night. With Malcolm Leon, Take 3 Productions, talking James Cameron. Yeah, you're on with me. So we're talking some James Cameron. The only one I'm going to rewatch on Sunday will probably be True Lies. It's been a minute since I watched that straight front to back. So I'm going to rewatch that, and then I'll be good to go. That should be a fun one to talk about. We got the 1987 and 1986 ladder series, 3-part next week. We're kind of whittling them down when we got to the 80s now. So it's just one tournament for each year, but it's a 3-part tournament. So 87 is a heavy hitter year. Speaking of Predator, that's something. So we'll get to that. And then I've got a double dose of Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 because I've got a straightforward commentary of it with Kyle Flett on his channel on Flett's Movies, and then our drinking game will it's either this week or next week, and I'm still talking to Wolf about that, but we'll be doing our drinking game to the same movie as well. So that should be fun. And then we can announce officially we do know what our next Wheel of Movies episode is going to be. We talked behind the scenes, so we're not spinning the wheel because we both just really want to talk about Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that's what we're going to talk about. And that's a movie where we can get back to literally going sequence by sequence, Richie, because boy, is there a lot to talk about in that movie. That movie's bonkers. So there's a lot to talk about. And a much less serious movie. A wild movie. We could talk about how you can't make that movie now because of the subject matter, all kinds of stuff. So we'll dig into Jingle All the Way 2 weeks from now for our Christmas episode. So that should be a lot of fun. So
we're getting to the point too where we might have to book a date for our best and worst of the year kind of thing. I don't know what Jordan's been doing, but
that'll be in January. So we'll be doing that. Yeah, the worst of the year in January, as we usually do. We'll build up to the best of the year, things like that. So we usually do those on the Sundays, kind of leading up, throughout the month. So we'll talk about that. Don't worry, you'll be on both of those issues.
Yeah, I need to compile my list still because I have no idea what
I definitely the worst of will probably be like. I tentatively like January 11th, like the 2nd January and Sunday, something like that. So, because we start with a worst of podcast, then we do an honorable mentions podcast, and then we do a best of the year. So we'll definitely build up to that. We'll do that. We'll probably do the same thing on JPO's channel with the worst of me and you, most likely. We did the worst of halfway through the year, so we'll do that as well. So that'll be fun. We got a lot going on, so stay tuned to the Movie Hero Network, to the Pierce Code, the Lonely Marks, Take 3 Productions, all that jazz, and support our community here. So we'll wrap it up for tonight. We'll get to talking some wrestling. So we'll wrap it up here. So thank you, Richie, as always, for joining me. I'm Austin Pez Howell. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks for Jingle All the Way. Next time on the Wheel of Movies. See you guys.